Hey guys, so John here. Real quick in this video, we're going to burn through what Python list comprehensions are and kind of how they work and how to relate them to more common Python code. I just got done recording this video and I wound up at 13 minutes. I don't know why I wound up at 13 minutes. Can't imagine a possible reason, but anywho, with 4:30 to go, we're going to figure this thing out. So, list comprehensions, what are they? It's kind of an esoteric term, right? List comprehensions in Python are list understandings. It's literally a way of constructing a list from some other list or something else. So let's say that we want to store a list of numbers from, let's say, a range, right? So we're going to say number equals I for I in range 10. So what does this say? This says the list number, or we're going to make a list named num. We're going to go through this for loop, and then for each element in this for loop, right, which we're going to name I, we're going to keep just I. So what is the equivalent for loop for this, right? And I'm going to name this slightly differently so that we can see that this is the same thing. But we're going to say num list is an empty list for I in range 10. We're going to stick that element list append, right? We're going to stick that element onto the end of that list. These two statements are equivalent, right? It takes us 3 lines to say num list is an empty list for I in range 10, append I to that list. Or simply keep I for every I element in range 10. So I can hear somebody screaming, yeah, who cares? You just wrote a bunch of code. Prove it. I'm going to prove it. So let's print num, and let's print num list. See what shakes out. Look at that down below. Holy crap, it's the same thing. All right, so who cares, right? Like, who in their right mind would actually represent this, like range 10, when you could just say like num equals list range 10, right? Like, those two things are also exactly the same thing. It's kind of dumb. The big strength with list comprehensions is that you can do other stuff to list comprehensions. Nobody in their right mind is just going to pass on a list and let it condition the list, right? Like, that's just, it's dumb. So if you have like a list of strings, right? Like if you had strings equals, I'm going to make a list, some stuff, really long words is here. All right, so I just created a list with 5 strings, right? Length of 4, length of 5, length of a lot, length of 2, length of 4. How could we figure out what the length of each word was? In this case, we could say for, well, we'll just say for line, right, in strings, which will give us each one of these entries, right? So this is going to iterate over some stuff, really long words, so forth. In strings, we're going to append the length of line, right? And I hope that makes sense to everybody, since I can't confirm that that makes sense to anybody. So the equivalent list comprehension up here would be, we're going to retain, right, which is how I want you all to think of list comprehensions. We're going to retain the length of string, or of line in this case, line, for line in strings. What does this get us? This should return the length of each one of these strings inside of the list of strings. What do we get? We get 4, 5, a lot, like I said earlier, 2, and 4. Right? So how cool is that? We can perform some action onto these, or onto whatever it is that we are keeping in this list. So let's say that we want every number multiplied by 2. It would be brainless, right? We would hope to say I times 2 for I in range 10. right? And that would again be equivalent to saying, and we're gonna back up and change this guy a little bit now. I in range 10, I times 2. Okay, so backing up, we're saying we're going to multiply I times 2, append it to this empty list, and keep going for I in range 2, which is identical to what this is saying. So I get that this still doesn't seem very English, right? It doesn't really make sense on like an interpersonal level. But this is saving us 2 lines of code just by saying keep whatever it comes first for each whatever the hell in whatever list or whatever iterable, right? And let's just, for fun's sake, take a look. And we can see that these are exactly the same thing. So what if I only want odd numbers, right? Like keeping every number in a list is stupid. Anybody can do that. Or anybody could just multiply the whole list by 2. Who cares? Let's say for I in range 10, I want to only keep numbers if I is not evenly divisible by 2. And well, we can totally talk about the modulus operator in a later video if somebody wants to. I'm not really worried about it yet. All right, so let's say, okay, so we have our loop here, right? And we're going to say num list is an empty list for I in range 10. If I is not evenly divisible by 2, we're going to append it to the list. And then here in our list comprehension, we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to say keep I for I in range 10 if I modulus 2 is not equal to 0. We should expect to see the exact same thing here, and I hope I didn't mistype anything. Let's see what shakes out. Right there. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Same thing, right? Super cool. This now takes up 4 lines, and it's in 1. So, in Python, if you're evaluating a function or if you're evaluating an expression, you can also nest stuff, right? So let's say that we want to keep 1, 2, 3 for each number in a number, or whatever. That kind of makes sense. We're going to say j for j in range 3, right, which should give us 0, 1, 2. This is a list comprehension, right? And we just stuck this list comprehension inside of this list comprehension, which says j for j in range 3 for I in range 10 if I is odd, right? What is the equivalent loop for this? It's going to be a little bit crazy, but we're going to say, so we know the if gets evaluated first. So we're going to say for j in range 3. And then we're going to say, oh yeah, I forgot a step. We're going to say temp list, right? Because a list comprehension is like creating an empty list. And then we're going to say temp list dot append j, because we're going to keep that element. And then at the end of this for loop, we're going to append temp list to the numbers list. Append temp list. Okay, so we are at, I don't know, like 6 lines, 7 lines. Looks like 7 lines at a cursory glance, and 1 line. Now, line 1 is slightly less human readable, but if it's slightly less human readable versus saving 7 lines and like at least a dozen keystrokes, which one would you choose? I know which one I would choose. Let's see if these two are the same. I hope they are. Oh, look at that. We got a list of lists, right? Which is 0, 1, 2, because we have 0, 1, 2 for every odd number that is in this range. So this totally doesn't matter. This list comprehension is kind of silly. And it's mostly just to demonstrate what we can do with list comprehensions. The big thing that I want you all to take away is a list comprehension is, and we'll put this in the comment, keep me for thing, well, keep me, well, all right. How to put it better? Keep thing for thing in iterable, right? Which is a list, dict keys, etc. I really hope that makes sense, and if not, let me know in the comments and we can figure it out from there. See y'all.